I'll call the meeting to order. Were we posted properly?
The meeting has been posted according to law.
Roll call.
President Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Holm.
Here.
Trustee Nugent. Here. Trustee Renucci.
Here.
Trustee Wisniewski.
Here. Just real quick before we do citizen participation, we are down 2 trustees. This is our last meeting before the election, and just, I don't have a resolution here, but just wanted to thank both John and Lori, both Alexanders, and Jason Smalley, whose last meeting was a couple weeks ago. I think Jason is with his family today. He's moving tomorrow. I ran into him as he was unloading his shed and talked to him for a bit. So, but just want to thank them for all their work for the village and their dedication over the years. And so that's why we have all these different positions available on the ballot. So, and I think that starts today, right? Tomorrow. In person, absentee is tomorrow. All right, we'll move on to citizen participation per Village Resolution 2017-01. Anyone wishing to address the village board during citizen participation will be allowed 5 minutes. Your subject must specifically relate to matters under the jurisdiction of the village board, whether on the agenda or not. The village board should not engage in a discussion regarding comments because it's not part of the publicly noticed agenda. Upon conclusion of the citizen participation segment, members of the audience are not allowed further comment unless they are participating in a public hearing or are specifically allowed by a majority vote of the village board due to involvement in an agenda item. Going once? Going twice? Okay. We'll close citizen participation. Consent agenda, 1 motion and a second. We'll approve all the following items. Any item may be pulled from the list and voted on separately.
Motion to approve.
Any questions or discussion on the motion for the consent agenda? All those in favor?
I was just going to say, I'm glad to see that the Lions Club celebration is going to actually be on the 4th of July this year.
Yeah, the calendar works out nicely this year with the 4th being on a Friday. So, okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 1 under miscellaneous business, consider approval of design proposal for School Street Lift Station. Jason?
Okay, so we're going to begin the process of talking about design for replacement of the School Street sewage pumping station. With us tonight, we have Katie Hassing from Applied Technologies. She's going to be the lead designer on the project, and she's going to just give us a kind of a quick presentation on their scope of in their proposal, and then we can answer any questions after that. Katie, if you want to come up and... As you know, we're going to be redesigning the station for replacement due to age and capacities.
Okay. Hi, my name is Katie Hassing. I'm with Applied Technologies. As Jason said, I'll actually be the project manager on the project, most likely. Louis Chapin will probably be the lead designer, and he's been working with Jason on updating the facility plan for the wastewater treatment plant. So the proposal is for design and bidding services for the lift station. We are intending to go to a different type of lift station than it has been done in the past. The village is moving to what's called the submersible station, where the pumping equipment is down in the liquid that it's pumping versus various other types. So the village has already made that decision. The other things under evaluation are the type of building that will be on the site, whether it's going to be a constructed building or a prefabricated building. There's some things to decide there. Other items are the what kind of rehabilitation or replacement of the force main piping that's on the site right now. We may have to upsize that piping to account for future flows. Other intended scope items are that we will be doing a 20-year design evaluation to look at what kind of flows are going to be pumped over the next 20 years so that the station is sized adequately for any future development that's in the area. Yeah, then the other, just other considerations are that it is a pretty, my understanding, it's a pretty confined site. It's in the middle of the village in a very public area. So just keeping that site, I guess, looking nice for whatever's constructed there, and doing what we can to limit, I guess, disruption during construction is another consideration.
Yeah, this is a pretty small lot. You're all familiar with School Street. We don't have a lot of real estate there. And obviously, we got to keep the current pump station up and running while we're constructing a new one. So that could be challenging.
Correct. So yeah, looking at how to keep the station running, if we need to do bypass pumping, what that would look like. Again, what kind of building is actually going to be on the site. And then, yeah, sizing correctly for a future design. I understand that there may be some sort of development in the area. So taking that into account is always I guess, a tricky proposition.
Yeah, so can we talk a little bit about the timeline? Because coming up, we got Kevin's development proposal here. So what does our timeline on this look compared to Kevin's?
So high level, I would see design in 2026. We should be able to have a design complete by the end of 2025, right?
Correct.
And then likely construct in 2026?
Is that like, so if you started in April of next year, how long of a construction is that?
Likely the entire construction season.
6 months?
Yes.
It's probably longer, close to a year. That's how long lift station projects have been taking, just from like start to final startup.
Does that also include the piping, trenching in the new pipe?
That would include construction of the new pipe, whether it's trenching or another method, yes.
I believe I saw in the tentative schedule that Kevin had provided occupancy in like July of 2026, right? Wasn't that?
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah. So,
168,000, is that the correct number?
That is correct, yes.
and what that gets us is through the design phase, and then it gets us out to bid. So obviously then after that, we'd have to come back with an amendment to talk about construction-related services, inspections, things like that. But this gets us through the bidding phase.
The facility plan came up with a estimated cost estimate for this lift station replacement, and it's about $2 million in construction costs.
Okay.
That included the force main.
Correct.
That main runs down Main Street, correct?
Yeah, so it's on the north side of Highway ES or Main Street, essentially behind the sidewalk. We're going to look at a couple different technologies here. Hopefully, we can do one of two things: either pipe bursting, which is essentially taking a cable and sending it down the existing pipe, and then pulling a new pipe through the old pipe, and essentially it bursts. It's called pipe bursting. It bursts the old pipe as you pull the new one through, or trying to directionally bore it, so we don't have to be as invasive to open cut the trench. And
The only thought I had was that after Walworth County or us doing all that work on ES and getting a nice Main Street, just all of a sudden now we're going to go back in there and start digging it up.
well, that's why we're really hoping to be able to pipe burst it or directionally bore it, so then there's only a couple of excavations rather than the entire length.
Are you guys seeing any supply chain issues on these
Yes.
types of? Okay, can you talk a little bit about that and how do we mitigate some of those risks?
The worst supply chain issues we're seeing right now are for like generators, emergency standby generators, and really any electrical panel items, just electrical power items. I think a generator, probably taking about a year from shop drawing approval to final, up to a year to delivery. So that has had an effect on construction scheduling, a pretty significant effect, yes.
So maybe we should try to get that order in before the end of this year?
That is an option. We have attempted to try and have owner procurement of certain equipment items. It's kind of worked. The problem is that you get the generator and then suddenly the electrical panel to feed the generator isn't available. You get the panel and then suddenly another thing is not available, and so you're like chasing what you think the supply chain issue is. We can try it.
I agree with Matt. I mean, having something is better than nothing,
Yeah.
especially when we had that fire hydrant debacle, remember?
I do, and the other thing with it is, you know, and we've got to make this decision whether we're going to do a prefabricated building or we're going to construct a building, and that's not only going to be costs and aesthetics, it also could be timing, you know, on which one takes potentially longer, because again, we have some challenges here with trying to keep the station up and working while we're constructing, but maybe there comes a point when we can at least order the generator, and then you could construct the building around it and, you know, and have the big pieces in place, and it doesn't hold up other things, but I guess those are things we'll have to determine as design moves along.
So also my understanding is the current lift station there is actually operating under capacity. You said 300 gallons a minute?
Yeah, about 320 gallons a minute, I think.
So if there is additional development in the area, that's sounding like May 2026, it's not an immediate
Right.
like deadline, that there is capacity at the existing lift station.
I just also, I don't like projects to go on and on and on. And I know you guys don't
Neither do
either.
I.
Yeah, so just, you know, whatever we can do, and I get, this is to approve the design. I'm just trying to upfront, you know, as we talk about this, so you guys can be thinking about it. So
Okay.
you were going to say something?
Sure.
Oh, the supply for the cabinets and the, where is that? Is that domestic or international?
So this project is not going to use a loan from the DNR.
We haven't decided that yet. I mean, we did do an intent to apply, so we have an option, but we have not really talked about that yet.
Okay. If you get a loan through the DNR, you're limited to basically domestic products right now because of the procurement requirements.
But
But I don't know if international is any better, so.
the green generators are typically what we've used, the Cummins or the Onans, though, and I believe those are domestically built, correct?
Yes, they will meet the requirements.
What about the control panels?
So the panels, like, the shell typically has to be domestic production, so just the metal paneling, and that is made in America. The components themselves are typically imported, but those fall under different
There's a certain
purchasing.
percentage that
Yeah,
is allowed to be.
55%.
I just had a vision of Siemens for the control panel or something, and then having a big problem with that.
You talked about the design of the building itself. So is that something that we could bring back to the board, just, and maybe even have a committee of the whole with the community?
Absolutely. When we've made that decision, and we kind of have an idea on what the conceptual building would look like, I think that would be the most appropriate time to come back. You know, and then, because then there would still be the opportunity to make any adjustments if need be. Now, I don't know if you'd want that to go to Planning Commission first, or if you'd want to maybe do a committee of the whole with Planning Commission and Village Board, or I don't know what you're thinking exactly, but yes.
Yeah, we can talk about that separately, about what's the right forum, but I think having more of a public discussion about it, inviting the community to kind of weigh in on it, because like you said, it's very public, it's not just kind of tucked away somewhere, and we get a lot of feedback, and I know we kind of put Kevin through the paces on the design for his building, so I think, you know, making sure that it kind of fits with that development, fits with the square, you know, and that way we have a little chance to give a little bit of feedback on it.
And for perspective, next time you drive by there, I'm envisioning, and obviously this is why we're going to pay designers, but I'm envisioning the building to probably be where the current generator, where that green box is currently, so.
Any concerns about having two big projects going on next year? The building and this?
As far as the development you're
Yeah,
talking about?
yep.
I don't think there'd be any conflict. I mean, we'll definitely be confined to our site. I don't think that they'll conflict with each other. And I think by that time, they'll be far enough along with, you know, with the site work they've done. You know, they'll be working inside essentially, I think.
Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, but when their work is going to be done on the lift station on School Street, would they access that more off of School Street, wouldn't they, than Main?
Yes.
If
I
they
mean,
can?
So when we did the School Street project this last year, we did put in a driveway approach to the best of our, to the best of our ability, not knowing where everything would end up with the new station. We kind of took a guess, but I think it's a really good guess. So we hopefully won't have to cut in a new driveway when we get to that point. But yes, I would agree, everything is going to be served off of School Street for the project.
I'll make a motion to approve the Applied Technologies proposal for design and bidding for $168,000 to be paid from the TID 5 funds.
Go ahead.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks for being patient with us.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Who knew we could be so interested in a lift station? All right, item 2, consider agreement with Oak Ridge Cemetery and Gooden ES 20 LLC regarding trees. This is what we discussed. I have not heard back from the cemetery. And so I guess what I would like is, if you're amenable, is a motion subject to staff being able to make some minor adjustments if needed.
So moved.
I think I'd be more deliberate in your motion and then just
Well-
following my lead, please.
I was going to then I'll make a motion that we approve the agreement from the village's perspective, balanced on the fact of the approval of the other two entities.
The ability for staff to adjust as need be?
That sounds good.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. All right, questions or discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 3, consider recommendation from Plan Commission to approve a conditional use for outdoor storage and wholesaling related to the construction of a new industrial building for property located on the northeast side of the cul-de-sac for South Executive Drive, bearing tax parcel number RA 5122000002, MP Systems, Inc., Christopher Winsler, Bryan Building Corp., Agent Application 2025-04. This was approved at the last Plan Commission meeting. This is over in the TID 4 Executive Park.
I'll make a motion to approve a conditional use for outdoor storage and wholesaling related to construction of a new industrial building for property located at the northeast side of the cul-de-sac for South Executive Drive, bearing tax parcel number RA 5122000002, MP Systems, Inc., Christopher Wensler, agent.
I'll second.
Questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. You could have just said, for what Matt just read. All right.
I have two people I've got to learn about now.
There you go. Item 4, discussion and possible action on a development agreement with Overlook Ridge LLC for development within tax increment district number 5. Eileen? And then obviously Kevin's here too for questions.
Yeah, so Attorney Ekis was going to try to attend the meeting. She had a conflicting meeting prior and would be joining us via Teams. I am not seeing her. I did send her a text just to see if she would be able to attend. I am not receiving a response. So I'll go through the summary, but if we are still in open session and she does join in, then hopefully we could address any questions if you guys should have questions on this. I apologize for not including a memo with this item. Normally it would be my intent, and I realized Friday evening I had neglected to do so. So I'm going to summarize the agreement for you. The terms are what the village board had discussed, and obviously the development agreement under consideration is for the Overlook Ridge development. The terms reflect the pro forma that was done by Ellers. You all may recall that when we reviewed the TID formation, we had a pro forma done that did an analysis specifically of the Overlook Ridge development. One of the things when they do that analysis is they look at the return on investment for the developer who was seeking 8 to 9%, and with the level of support within the development agreement, they get a market rate of return of 8.2% on average. That pro forma had concluded that a development on that site would not be reasonable to be expected to occur in the near future solely through private investment. It also determined that the $4.8 million in development incentive to help with the purpose of site preparation and construction was necessary, and that was based on that 8.2% market rate of return. The developer in exchange is guaranteeing an equalized value of $21.025 million. There's a guarantee within the agreement for shortfall payments to the village, so we are able to make debt payments if they would fall below that value. Annual tax increment on that value is estimated to be $303,000. The incentive is outlined to be paid 90% annually for the first 5 years and 60% of that available increment over the next 20 years thereafter. So it is structured as a PAYGO, which means, for example, when they have an assessed value on January 1st of 2027, that assessed value is what that tax bill that goes out in December of 2027 is based on, and is the bill that's payable in 2028. So they would be making that payment in December or January of 2028, and if they elect the option, also in July. The PAYGO is then paid to the developer between late August and October 20th. And the incentive is paid through that increment that's generated by the development. The development agreement also requires that trail easement and construction that we've talked about, so there will be that access to potential future walking paths in the property behind the development. It also provides the ability for the village to specially assess if the developer doesn't comply with certain plans and specifications, or they don't make payments on funds owed to the village. And as we talked about, they're hoping to begin construction on the first building April of 2025, and right now they're projecting final inspections in June of 2026 and late July of 2026, but it sounds like Kevin's a little more eager, thinking maybe May, but maybe a conservative estimate. So are there any questions I can answer? It looks like Attorney Ekus said she might be like another 10 minutes, so if we have legal questions, we may have to recess.
I mean, do we really have questions at this point? If we do, go ahead and ask them, but.
What exactly would the shortfall entail, or what would it be, what would they be shortfalling on?
So if their assessed value was less than that $21.025 million that we've put into those cash projections that were in the packet materials, then that tax increment is going to be less than the $303,000 annually that we calculated. So we want to ensure that we're able to make our debt payments because we're doing the borrowing for the lift station based off of this development. So that's what that shortfall would do. It would provide payment for whatever that shortage of taxes is.
And the developers, everybody's on the same page with all this?
Yes, the developers reviewed it, their attorneys reviewed it, and their attorneys approved it.
Yeah, while Kevin comes up, I was going to ask, it says PEG draft, so I'm assuming you're good with this, Kevin?
Yeah, we reviewed it. Our attorneys have reviewed it as well. So it's 2 attorneys. We don't have like a team of 15 attorneys. That sounds very official.
I will say this is the first time we've sent a development agreement to an attorney and got, okay, it's good, the first go-around, so.
We also worked with Elaine and their law firm on our last project in Sturtevant, and then my dad worked with her in Union Grove, so we're pretty familiar in terms of what's in there.
was just saying, I know we've had, with the Plan Commission, but I know for this agreement too, we've had some back and forth, so I appreciate your working with us.
Yeah, no problem.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, it was stated you're going to start digging in about 4 weeks?
The goal was to actually get the rock pile moved today,
Thank you.
but that didn't happen. I think we're waiting on a couple of things for Orin to sign, so I got to touch base with him. I'm hoping, honestly, if we could start this week, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and I did discuss that with Orin today, so he said he was going to review, there's some things with that tree ordinance he needs to review. And we have a construction meeting, when is it, Wednesday?
Wednesday at
Yeah,
2.
Wednesday of this week, so staff will be meeting with Kevin and his contracted services to go over pre-construction and the details we still need to finish up before they start.
I'll make a motion to approve the development agreement with Overlook Ridge.
I'll second.
Questions or discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, staff reports, item 1, municipal court, February 2025. Any questions, comments? Item 2, February financial report. What percentages are out of whack?
I was just reading some of the numbers here. Question I had on, as far as emergency services, I didn't see, was there anything that reflected that ladder truck or the pumper that we paid for, anything in there at all?
So that emergency services fund that you see in our budgetary reports or financial reports is strictly an in and out fund for the payroll services that we provide. So we
Got it.
don't do their other accounting.
Got it.
So it should theoretically zero out, but at the end of the month, sometimes there's a little balance because there's a crossover in time.
I understand. I just thought that because we made a substantial move when we got that pumper. And that's why I didn't know where that was reflected.
So that would be in our debt service fund.
Okay.
Is intergovernmental revenues, is that where we're getting our sales tax dollars from the state? Or I guess their state aid due to sales tax?
Yes, that would be it's comprised of shared revenues. Yes. Sorry, I was just looking for the intergovernmental charges for services as well.
Is that at 9.4% a concern? Or revenues down for the state? I haven't followed that lately.
I suspect it has to do with the timing of receipt of the payments, but I can verify that. I'll let you know. I'll follow up on that.
I'm just thinking about my day job in 2024, so. Okay. Other questions?
That was going to be one of my questions that Matt was just talking about. Excuse me, for the fund summary, page 9. I was looking, I guess because we've only had 2 months of funds coming in, and we've had more expenditures, am I correct in assuming that? That the expenditures have to be done now, but the funds coming in are a little slower? Because
Which fund are you looking at?
Well, I'm just looking at in general. I'm looking at the totals. We're like 265 million in lower than the revenue.
Are you looking at the capital projects fund?
Yeah. Page 9?
Okay. So the year-to-date actual for revenues is at 374,000. We had budgeted significantly more because we're doing a borrowing this year. So we have some intergovernmental revenues that were budgeted as well that have not been received yet. So a lot of it's just timing issues at this point. There's not anything that I'm aware of that,
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
Since, we only had 2 months of money coming in, so.
correct.
Item 3, if no other questions. Item 3, Administrators Report, March 2025. I guess, Eileen, anything you really want to highlight out of your list of things here?
Let me get
Is,
it here.
is Chelsea going to continue her work with that, when they start doing the railroad work on 20, as far as her maintaining communications like she did with the other work?
I'm guessing that's going to be the plan.
Yeah, so as soon as we get anything from DOT, then absolutely she'll share that information.
She did a great job last time. That's, I was just kind of hoping to maintain continuity there.
I guess as far as highlights, Polymorphic had awarded us the Polymorphic Service First Award, and they've awarded that to 7 municipalities. And when I reviewed the municipalities, I was fairly proud because there's some larger municipalities in that grouping. And it's really just reflective of all staff's efforts to think about ways we can utilize that software, and just innovative thinking and a willingness to embrace technology. And I think it's just speaks volumes to the way Chelsea's been working with them as well. She's been very supportive of utilizing that software in new ways, and we've been kind of pushing the envelope, and we are an early adopter of that software, so we are getting a discounted rate because we signed up so soon, and they're utilizing a lot of our ideas for other communities. So I attended a webinar recently, and they were using examples that had Village at East Troy Forms, which was kind of cool to see. But yeah, what we're really looking forward to and hopeful that we'll be able to launch in the next year, and it's been a long time in the making, are building permitting through Polymorphic. And that does involve them generating forms through the input that goes into that software, and then we'd be able to print out those permits right from the software. And also park and rec registrations, that would be huge. I think since I've been back working in the village since 2011, we've been talking about having more online options for park and rec registrations. Unfortunately, our community's not large enough to justify the purchase of a lot of the softwares that they use for those type of scenarios. So it's kind of nice that this is a flexible software, but we're just working on them being able to add totals in a cart and making one payment. So hopefully their programmers will be able to resolve these things, and we'll be able to launch those in the near future.
I'm personally really excited about it, so make things better and easier.
Yeah, and I just think it's huge that we can offer 24/7 service to the constituents through that software.
Hey, go ahead. You do something else?
Yeah, I got a question on page 5 with the chamber, item 3B. It said it has to do with the disbursement or to the East Troy Chamber. Should any change be made in the percentage of room tax collections the municipality is required to forward to a tourism entity or commission under section number 660615, then upon written notice, the amount will be increased or decreased accordingly with a 6-month notice given in the event of a decrease. But those numbers don't come in till the end of the year, right? So how would we be able to give 6 months' notice?
What that's saying is if state law changes. So if the state law for the percentage, because we're allowed to keep 30%, and 30% of that goes to our park and rec programming. So if that percentage share, that 30% we're allowed to keep would change and we're required to give a different amount to the chamber, that state law change would implement that.
The way I was reading it, I apologize. The way I was reading it, I didn't want us to get backed into a corner, you know,
Sure.
Well, that
to
language,
give information when we didn't have it.
yeah, that language is also there in case we ever wanted to designate someone other than the chamber as a tourism entity, and it's to protect the chamber from us just saying, oh, well, you don't get any more. They have 6 months to plan for the next year to do that. We don't have any intention of doing that, but that's there to make sure that if we wanted to change that for some reason, then they're not, stuck. What?
I got one more question on page 6. It involves the village board member to be assigned, and it says to be confirmed by the village board, subject to the chamber's approval. I guess my question is, what happens if the chamber doesn't approve it? that
We'll
person.
cross that bridge when we come to it. That was language that wasn't worth, we were trying to get the agreement done, so. I will be working, once we've got the results of the election, I'll be working on what appointments. We do have some citizens that have moved or changed on some of our other committees, so we'll have a whole bunch of adjustments to make. All right, committee reports. Item 1, draft plan commission minutes from last Monday, March 10th. Any questions for 40? We just approved one of the things. Okay, item 2, library board minutes from February 12th. Mary, anything you want to highlight?
The interviews with 3 different architectural firms is coming up the very beginning of April. So we're moving ahead on that.
Mary, are they considering putting an elevator in?
We're considering making it handicapped accessible, whatever, and we're looking to the architects to come up with some ideas, how to marry an old building and a new building that would make it ADA compatible.
The reason I asked, I was asked to look at that back in 2012. As far as, where you walk around the back of the building, and there's a door up at the end of the, I had a company come out, they were going to actually work and put a shaft in and put an elevator in for both floors. But I was just curious if they were going to somehow try to still figure that out.
Item 3, airport minutes from January 13th. Jim, anything you want to highlight?
I'd like to mention the Doug Nielsen's airplane construction or airplane servicing business is going better than he anticipated, and he's actually looking for more space if he can get it. So that's very good news. Yes, thank you.
Okay, then I will make a motion to adjourn to closed session. The village board may take up a motion to go in closed session pursuant to Section 1985-1E, Wisconsin statute, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business, whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, specifically to discuss, 1, a development agreement with Overlook Ridge LLC for development with tax increment district. Do we need to do that? Do we just approve that?
No, we do not. We had put that as a closed session item in case you needed to consult with the attorney on anything, because that was the first time you guys saw the development agreement
Okay.
entirety.
Then I'm withdrawing that part of the motion. Item 2, a development agreement with Bryan Building Corp. For the MP Systems, Inc., Peeper Power development with tax incremental district number 4. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
President Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Holm?
Yes.
Trustee Nugent?
Yes.
Trustee Renucci?
Yes.
Trustee Wasniewski?
Yes.
My wife walked in the room because she got back early from her trip. I was hoping I could say, now get out.